Welcome to the Paladin's Tower Fans and Lore review. And today I invite you to join me as we peel back the layers of one of cinema's most iconic duels, the famed Duel of the Fates from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. My aim is not simply to recount this scene, but to delve into the technical, aesthetic, and philosophical nuances that make, or in my view, mar this legendary battle. In this scene, we witness a clash of ideologies and styles, distilled into a series of rapid, dazzling movements. For many, the duel represents a powerful synthesis of myth and movement. For me, as someone who has spent years studying the art and science of the blade, it's a canvas upon which both brilliance and error are starkly painted. Okay, now let's start from the beginning and go move by move, at least while it stays interesting. So the first move that Obi-Wan makes is actually the one that confuses me quite a lot. If we consider this move as kind of an attack, this is a very unprepared way to attack, especially if it's a new enemy for you, like Sith were not in the galaxy for thousands of years, as far as I know lore-wise. But more importantly is that even if it's someone whom you potentially know, whom you know how he or she fights, it doesn't mean that you should charge straight ahead. The only possible explanation of Obi-Wan's movements here, like possible strategic explanation that I see personally, is that he tried to conquer the fight in space, so to say. He tried to get behind him just to get Qui-Gon and himself into a more favorable position in this fight. Well, in that case, this move may work, but I think it's still too crazily dangerous. But let's continue. Let's look at this move one more time. Yeah, you see how dangerously close he was to Darth Maul. He could have got hit easily. I think that this is still a very bad and unprepared move, and generally a bad idea, at least a bad implementation of a good idea. But let's continue, let's see what happens next. So somehow Obi-Wan being directly behind Darth Maul, instead of just attacking him right away with a simple attack, which he could have done easily, he somehow decided to attack Darth Maul's blade. Well, don't get me wrong, attack on the blade, like any way of manipulating the blade of your opponent during a complex attack, or even when you're just preparing a simple attack and you're attacking the blade while still staying out of distance and just like a feint of sorts, it's fine. But here Obi-Wan is clearly in the critical range, so to say. He's too close to just be feinting. And there is no reason to take any action on Darth Maul's blade, maybe besides giving some more opportunities or time to Qui-Gon. But Qui-Gon was so far away at that moment, first of all, he can easily choose his own distance, safe distance for his possible continuation of his moves or for some attack. So there is no reason for Obi-Wan to do this. He could have just killed Maul in this first 10 seconds of this fight, and somehow he didn't. You see, he stands right behind him, he has time to do it. And even if we say that for some reason he's afraid of Darth Maul's attack if he stops contact with his blade, but the way Darth Maul's hands are positioned, I don't see a very fast or particularly strong attack from this kind of stance he has. Let's see what happens next. So clearly you see how many moments or fancy tempos Obi-Wan has to attack, and he could have attacked right here without any problem. You see, he had another moment to attack where he was completely safe, where Darth Maul's blade is far away, but somehow he decides to get into this sort of a high prime position, and there's no reason for it. But at least he could have thrust it right here and now, but again he doesn't do it. He loses his tempo once again. Can you imagine that? Maybe he'll do something right now, let's see. But no, I don't know, it's just so strange. So he makes this parry which he didn't really have to do, because Darth Maul was attacking Qui-Gon with thrust, so his this kind of a double-sided sword staff that he has, it wouldn't have moved too much to the left, you see, right here. So it would have stayed in this position, so there was no need for Obi-Wan to like defend, and there was no need really to attack the blade, because Qui-Gon is still quite far away and he controls the situation quite well. So that's very strange. And now, of course, when Obi-Wan decides to make yet another strange movement, when he does this kind of a 360-degree turn for absolutely no reason, of course at this time Maul is already ready for his strike and he easily defends, parries. Let's see what happens next. Okay, let's review this small portion of this fight, and I think that then we'll move to the end of the fight, because nothing particularly interesting in terms of fencing happens in the middle. I think it's just more of the same, not very well done fencing directorship, so to say. No offense to the stunt coordinator. He's like a star and he did a great job, but in this particular scene I'm not happy. You know, when I was small, when I watched it for the first time as a kid, I thought that this was just superbly done, and it's still better than most modern scenes in the Star Wars universe. But when I look at it now, it feels so inauthentic, it feels so dull and overly lengthy. But okay, let's continue. So as you can see, Obi-Wan just like puts his blade forward for absolutely no reason, just for Darth Maul to effectively push both of their blades down. Well, maybe it looked fine, but it just makes no sense. Again, just look at this. Obi-Wan is standing right then and there without even trying to directly hit or thrust Darth Maul. You see, he just hits the blade. Okay, let me say it one more time. Actions that you take on your opponent's blade are very important in fencing. It's not right to say that in reality no one strikes the blade. Sometimes people who are not very well versed in terms of fencing, they think that the main mistake that movies make or like some video games make is that people are just attacking each other's blade for no reason, but it's only part of the problem, you know. It's just like the top of the iceberg. The real problem is absolutely no understanding of distance, of critical distance, and of strategical ideas behind every move. And so in this way, striking the blade right here, the way Obi-Wan does it, is just stupid. It makes no sense at all. But when you strike a blade as a part of your complex attack, as a part of your series of feints, when you prepare your real definitive attack, even if it's a simple one, it's a very good move actually, but not here. Again, Obi-Wan decides to go full circle here for absolutely no reason, like losing all his time, losing all their advantage that they have on Darth Maul. Of course, I understand that this is a movie, and if they had just killed Darth Maul in the first 10 seconds, that probably wouldn't have been very interesting for most of you. But still, they should have done it differently. They should have made the scene much shorter, but much more intense and much more strategically, and in terms of martial arts and fencing, real. And one word about realism, you know. Of course, when we're talking about sci-fi, fantasy movies and stuff, we don't need 100% real or authentic stuff all around the movie. Of course, we can have magical space wizards, the Jedi, we can have lightsabers, we can have different pieces of technology that just work without any explanation. That's fine. But things like fencing, they shouldn't be truth per se, but they should be truth-like. They should be interpreted by the viewer as something that could be done. And in this case, it just feels inauthentic. Okay, I think we should move to the last section of this fight, because there is nothing to see here. like almost nothing, just more of the same bullshit. Let's see what happens here. There's probably one more move that I want to show you, and then we'll move to the end. Okay, here we'll see a move that makes total sense, and actually it's the best fencing strategical move that we have seen in this whole section of the fight. Let's see what's happening here. So look closely what Obi-Wan is doing here, and then I'll explain. So maybe you've missed it. Let's rewind a bit. So look closely. You see, this is a very good example of fencing strategy, especially when fighting like 2 against 1. So what Obi-Wan was trying to achieve is he feinted a movement with his body in order to make Maul believe that he's going to attack, and hopefully to provoke him for any active defense. But Darth Maul was smarter than this, obviously, and when Qui-Gon attacks, after this kind of a feint of Obi-Wan, Darth Maul successfully parries. But still, look at how orchestrated this move is. We might think that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan practiced it, or maybe it's their Jedi like feel, that they felt what each other wanted to do at this moment. Basically, this is a series of actions which start by some action or a sequence of actions by you, which hopefully lead to some specific reaction of your opponent, after which you continue with some reaction of yours to his reaction. In this case, Darth Maul did not react, obviously, but Qui-Gon was still in a good position to try to attack, and he attacked, so this was perfectly fine. Basically, no one made a mistake, it's just a good part of this fight. I would say it's the best part of this fight up to this moment. There are some very good moments in the end, and we'll review them right now, but the beginning of the fight is just awful. So let's go to the final part of the fight. As for this particular part, I think this middle of the fight is not particularly interesting in terms of fencing. We can, of course, note some moves here, but nothing too interesting. Especially when Qui-Gon just keeps on charging Darth Maul like here, and he presses and presses and presses for absolutely no reason because his partner is far away. I don't like this part of the fight because Qui-Gon just keeps on pushing. He actually needs to stall. He needs to take his time in order for Obi-Wan to have some like moments to reach them and help him, but he just keeps on pushing, and he's actually playing into this Darth Maul's game. I think Darth Maul is trying to lure him into this trap specifically, or maybe he's just on the defense. That's hard to say, but I dislike this part. And let's skip the part where Darth Maul defeats Qui-Gon also. I think it doesn't add anything in terms of fencing, anything significant. Let's go into the final part. And now let's discuss the final and the best part of this fight. I think it's greatly done. It's much better than the rest of this whole Duel of the Fates. So let's first see how it goes, and then we'll discuss it in detail. Oh, again, Obi-Wan starts by attacking right away without any preparation. Okay, I think let's stop here and discuss what has just happened. Okay, let's do it almost frame by frame, and I'll tell you what I like and what I dislike and why. So, as I've already mentioned, I dislike the way Obi-Wan constantly attacks without any kind of preparation. Maybe it works for him for now, but still I think it's not very strategic of him. I like the way he basically flew above the ground after his first moves. That looked cool. So they are basically exchanging these kinds of like attacks, parries, riposts, then counter parries and counter riposts. This sequence is fine. This actually happens in real sword fights, in real like tournament fights, even in different weapons. It's pretty fine. Let me show you something. Just wait a bit. There is an important thing to note here about this parry riposte game. By the way, look at this moment right here. So these small moments of like some kind of flashy movements with different like flurry of actions with his double-sided sword staff. I think it was a good part, by the way. You might have thought that I would dislike something like this just because it's pretentious, just because it's flashy, but actually no, this is not the case. I love flashy stuff. I love moves that look beautiful. I love all this when they make sense. And in this particular case, those moves by Darth Maul made all sense, because this was a great way to prepare his attack. He was basically solving two goals by these movements of his. First of all, he wanted to recon what his opponent might do. And secondly, this was to mask the beginning of his own attack. So this kind of flurry of movements that are done out of distance, they can actually help you to reach those two goals. They can also probably overload the senses of your opponent, which is also a good thing. Well, that's basically what masks the beginning of your attack, this overload. So let's see what happens later. So again, some parries and riposts and counter parries, counter attacks, counter riposts. Counter attack is a bit of a different beast. Like if we're talking about textbook definition of counter attack. So counter riposte is like a counter answer. So that's not just a counter attack which is done in tempo, for example, with the opponent's attack. This is something that you do after you defend yourself and then you answer. That's just for your understanding. This particular part I love the most, the part where they fight with normal lightsabers. This is the best part, I think, and the way Darth Maul moves with his normal sword is much, much more convincing than with the double-sided sword staff that he has. And it looks more beautiful. And here, for absolutely no reason at all, we cannot even try to say that the reason for this movement of his was to take some strategic position on the battlefield, for example, because there was no difference. He's basically at the same place. There is no advantage on the far side for him. So that kind of jump was just silly and even more dangerous, because Darth Maul has already seen one at this point, and just Obi-Wan is acting too dangerous to himself. Maybe this was his idea, to try to get Darth Maul while he stands up, try to strike his back, but it didn't work. So here what I like about the movements of Darth Maul and about this whole sequence is that Darth Maul is trying to find his measure, to find his distance, and to get into a very comfortable position to defend. Because, and that's what I wanted to tell you about. Look carefully right here. So you see, when Obi-Wan starts his attack, it seems that he's just normally rushing as a bull, and many of you might say, why didn't Darth Maul just put his hand in front of him and stabbed Obi-Wan with a counterattack? And even though this might have worked, this still leaves Darth Maul too vulnerable, because you see the problem here, if you try to counterattack someone who is very, very committed to strike you with a simple attack, you'll just, first of all, you'll probably get his attack on you earlier than you'll be able to counter-strike. But even if you do it just at the same moment, you'll probably get hurt too. So the reason why Darth Maul is not trying to counterattack here in the previous moment is just because, just let me show you it once again. So look carefully. When Obi-Wan starts to chase him and Darth Maul takes his distance, you see, he was actually preparing his defense. He knew that Obi-Wan would probably strike in that sector. He knew this. He could have tried to counterattack his hands or something like this. But being a very experienced and trained fighter, Darth Maul decided that he would take a more safe route, so to say, and just defend from this attack and then try to win. I think this is a great tactical idea behind this sequence of moves, and I fully agree with what stunt coordinator did here. This was a very good example, and Darth Maul using his leg here is also a very good thing. He had an opportunity to get this one attack by another weapon, his leg done, and he did it. There was no time to do something else. For example, there was no time for him to give an answer with his weapon, so it all makes sense. Okay, let's see what happens next. Okay, let's see about this backflip. Several rotations. I'm not sure why he did this. Maybe he thought that Obi-Wan was going to attack his legs, or maybe to attack from one side to another with a sweep. It's hard to see from this angle, so let's leave it that way. But look at this move closely. I think this is something from Wushu, from Chinese martial arts. At least it looks that way. Maybe write in the comments if you recognize some of the moves. So Maul is on the offensive now. Again, I don't like the distance they're fighting in here. Is it possible? Of course, it happens a lot, especially if we're talking about him alone sword. This kind of distance happens quite often, but in terms of such a fight, I just feel that it's a bit dull. As for the ending, I dislike this ending. I think there is nothing to say about the ending of this last sequence of the fight. I think it's just for the purpose of the screenplay, that's all. The way Obi-Wan kills Darth Maul here is nothing that I find spectacular for me. I think this this final sequence was done just to make the audience believe that Obi-Wan is in danger. For example, for people who haven't watched the previous movies at that point somehow, or maybe people who didn't understand that this was the Obi-Wan, the very same one that's in the episode 4 to 6. So I think that's about it. Thank you for watching. I really like this format. I really like this section on my channel. Maybe I'll film something more along those lines. So if you like this format, I'll do more. Write in the comments if you want some particular scene to be reviewed by me, and maybe I'll do something like this. Thank you very much. Subscribe, like this video, and see you soon.